Well, this week, the Bloomington Park Commissioners considered a proposal that would have banned the use of tents in city parks. But the idea was dismissed after the community rallied in support of those struggling with homelessness. But as Ethan Burks reports, less than 48 hours after the ruling, the city sent resource officers into parks to remove camping structures.
For the last several months, public spaces like Seminary Park have become a dwelling for people experiencing homelessness. As the cooler temperatures set in, people have set up more tents to keep warm. The city has a rule that bans overnight camping in parks, but the proposal park commissioners considered earlier this week would have banned tent camping during the day as well.
We turned to our policy manual, and oftentimes I was asked in the past couple of months, what is the policy about tents in parks? And what we had in place was a special use permit.
More than 200 people joined this week's meeting to oppose the proposal.
The homeless folks are part of our community. That's why they are our responsibility. I think this is cruel and heartless, and I can't believe that we're even considering evicting folks when we have no alternatives to offer them.
In the end, the park board struck down the proposal, but only to have BPD come into Seminary Park a day later to enforce the overnight policy.
The difference was indicating to people that they shouldn't leave their stuff in the park either. And that decision was made upon the recommendation of a bunch of our folks who've been working on that issue downtown.
Hamilton says the city offered people transportation to nearby shelters, but only a few people took advantage of it.
There really isn't anywhere for people to go. If they can't stay in a public park, then their only choice is to go onto private property, which is, as you know, illegal.
White says the city and county both have availability at local shelters, but it's not nearly enough to solve the problem of people experiencing homelessness. Directors of local shelters say there are about 15 to 18 beds available at the Wheeler Mission, around 10 at Beacon's Friends Place, and 35 through the county's isolation center. And even though there is availability, there is still the looming health danger of the pandemic.
The reality is that people are staying in crowded shelter settings still, and that is an increased risk of developing COVID. And so from a COVID standpoint, it is safest to not break up encampments.
In a statement, the city says the parks were also turning into unsafe places for social gatherings. BPD reports it found hundreds of needles and syringes when it was removing items from Seminary Park. But people experiencing homelessness who may be dealing with substance abuse issues can still seek shelter because many places have low barrier requirements.
We're giving them a place to come just as they are, in hopes that we can meet them and address their needs so that they can move from that crisis situation to stability, and from stability to stable housing eventually.
Several local shelters and the mayor himself admit there's still more work to be done locally, and the only way to solve the problem is to have more affordable housing. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Ethan Burks.